What's the most underappreciated position in football? If you said tight end, you would agree with me. But 99% of people actually think it's the backup quarterback role. How many teams lose their season and watch it go off the rails because QB1 goes down and they don't have a solidified QB2? You're basically grasping for air, which is why South Carolina went out and added in Air Noland, the former four-star passer from Ohio State. Let's go ahead and grade the move and how he fits in at Willie B in 2025. Welcome on into SEC Unfiltered. He's Dave Shumate. I'm Cole Thompson. And today we talk about the former Buckeye becoming a Gamecock. Real quickly, make sure that you like the video, hit the ring notification, and subscribe to the channel because we talk college football every single day. What better place to talk SEC than SEC Unfiltered? Download the podcast version of the show wherever you get your podcast listening systems. Follow us on the socials, TikTok, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter at SEC Unfiltered. Follow Dave at Mock 10 Sports, me at Miss Cole Thompson, and check out all of our great work found at SECUnfiltered.com. This episode is brought to you by our friends over at Prize Picks. Prize Picks, the official sponsor of the SEC Unfiltered Tour and the official #1 app for college football fantasy. Go to prizepicks.com and use the promo code SECU at sign up to get a $50 instant play with your first $5 lineup. And ladies and gentlemen, this is not just for the likes of college football. This is for college basketball. So if you want to get in on the hoop game, go ahead and go to prizepicks.com, promo code SECU at sign up. Dave, I love this move. And I get it. I may be drinking the garnet and black Kool-Aid a little bit too much these days. But I just look at what is needed in college football. And you watch as Gunnar Stockton is hopefully going to lead the Bulldogs to another national championship bout. You look at Texas and what they have with Arch Manning waiting in the wings. Having a solidified backup quarterback is the most essential thing that I think so many people lay to the wayside. And Air Noland is a dude. He's a southpaw. He's 6'2". But number one, you got yourself a contingency plan in place of Lenore Sellers, regardless of what happens in the future. And number two, you got a quality backup. You got a dude that's coming on in, and you already know that guy's QB2. We're in good hands. We're all state right now out in Columbia. We're in good hands if we lose the Norris Sellers for a couple games.
Yeah, there's not a lot of proven production out there, and I get it. He kind of, once Julian Sayin transferred in January, once Nick Saban retired from Alabama,
it was a done deal.
It was over for Air Noland. Again, they have five. I was looking at the roster tracker. They have 5 quarterbacks on scholarship right now. Like that's not going to hold in today's game. And we see it a little bit. Maybe this is a strategy, and these people haven't admitted this, and I don't know if they would tell me this, but you see a team like LSU, you see a team like South Carolina maybe going in the portal, getting their future quarterback. It kind of is their backup, obviously, with Michael Van Buren at LSU and Air Noland sitting behind Lenore Sellers. So two very similar situations. Both guys know, again, Michael Van Buren has more production, but both guys know what they're walking into. Like,
yeah,
good shot, you're not starting in 2025. But as you mentioned, Cole, it's like penalties. It's like pre-snap procedural penalties when we're picking games. No, it's like the kicker when we're talking about preseason predictions. Nobody ever wants to talk about what happens if you're quarterback depth. That's like a spot we just don't talk about. And I get it. Only one guy can play the quarterback spot. And hopefully, again, we're not wishing injury on anybody, but inevitably we see it happen. When we saw it with Florida State, it's why they got left out 2 years ago. You mentioned it. Georgia's going to have an opportunity with Gunnar Stockton to step up, with Carson Beck going down. You don't really appreciate your backup quarterback until it's on a Saturday, a Tuesday, Wednesday, whatever these playoff games sometimes are. Like, until they're out there and you're like, thank God we have that guy.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? You don't think about it until he goes down. So it's a good insurance policy to have out there. I don't think anybody can really say either way if Air Noland's going to pan out, but I do like the take, if that makes sense. I think you got to have some security there. If you don't like your backup, I mean, I'll say this. Robbie Ashford had played more, but I actually like Air Noland more.
I was about to ask you, how do you feel about that week 3 matchup with a year of experience for Air Noland against LSU, and he's filling in for Robbie Ashford? You feel a lot better about the second. You feel a lot better about the second half, right?
No, and at least, I mean, again, Lenore Sellers can go enter the draft after next year if he wants to. Because he'll be a redshirt sophomore, and then they're bringing in the Dante Reno kid, the Cutter Woods. So you're going to have a quarterback competition. At least 2 out of those 3 guys of Air Noland, Reno, and Woods will compete for that job in 2026. And Cole, to our point, before we even get way ahead to 26, like me and you both mentioned, you got to have a backup quarterback. Now, and as physical as Lenore Sellers is, like you just never know. It may not even be for a whole season. You may just, again, we saw it this year with South Carolina. Lenore Sellers got hurt against LSU, and he didn't play against who was it? Wofford? Was it?
It was Akron.
Akron. Sorry, it was Akron that Robbie Ashford played and played pretty well. And so you never know. Like, and we always used to say it when I was in college football, is he a guy that can go win you games, or is he a guy that can just get you through some games? Again, I don't think we know that with Air Noland, but I think he does have the ability to at least get you through a couple games if and when. Let's hopefully not, because Lenore Sellers is such an exciting player to happen. You just never know.
You have to remember that this is the number 10 quarterback prospect of the 2024 cycle. He was a top 100 player by 247 Sports. He was a 4-star coming out of Georgia, Langston Hughes High School. Langston Hughes High School. He had offers from everywhere in the SEC. Alabama wanted him. Missouri wanted him. Ole Miss wanted him. Michigan was going after him. Oregon offered him. And South Carolina lands him. And so now you got a quarterback that is a lefty, which maybe is going to be a little bit different for you if you're Mike Shula. But he's got proven experience from the high school level. I mean, this was a dude that was a 4-year starter. He had his best year in 2022, over 4,000 passing yards, 55 touchdowns, 4 interceptions. Final year, 22 touchdowns, 9 interceptions. He was a 4-star recruit. And now you're getting him in a system that's very pro style, that's going to allow him to, I think, grow as a passer. You're going to add in weapons around him. And again, it's a good contingency plan. A lot of people are so focused in on Lenore Sellers and what he could do in 2025. And while you should, he is the most improved player in college football for my money, for Dave's money. And we both agree that this is right now probably the favorite to be QB1 in the SEC and certainly a favorite to win the Heisman in 2025. Well, if he does all those things, he's going to go pro. He's going to go to the next level because of his draft stock is not going to be any higher. But South Carolina has to be sustainable. They have to put themselves in a great situation to where these 10-2, 9-3 years aren't just fly by every 6 or 7 seasons. They're a constant basis. A guy like Air Noland on paper provides that for you. Now, he's got to be able to build that relationship inside the locker room. He's got to be able to understand the ins and outs, the intricacies of what this offensive personnel is going to be. But on paper, this is a really good fit. And again, Dave, you play him in the second half of that LSU matchup. He finds the end zone, I think, one more time than Robbie Ashford. Guess what? South Carolina's 10-2. South Carolina's in the college football playoff because of it. Every single time you realize that the backup quarterback, you brought this up, you don't care about it, you don't really think about it, and you don't appreciate it until you call upon it. And now you're called upon a dude that was at one point wanted by Nick Saban, wanted by Kirby Smart, wanted by Dan Lanning, wanted by Billy Napier, wanted by Mike Norvell, wanted by Jim Harbaugh, wanted by Ryan Day, and now he's going to go work with Shane Beamer, which again, for me is a good fit.
No, I 100% agree. Yeah, I mean, you can't critique. It's a pretty chess move, if we're being honest. And again, I'll be interested to see if this case study kind of works out down the line, if this becomes kind of a trend. Inevitably, things will change too. But like, if this is what teams kind of start doing, like, hey, I'm going to go a year in advance, go get my quarterback or my hopeful quarterback heading into 2026. And you know what? If we got to play him this year, whatever. We got a whole spring, we got a whole fall camp. Get his feet wet a little bit in some games we're up big or some teams we should beat. And maybe we can roll with him if, unfortunately, something we're not thinking about happens.
You know what? The other thing I really like about this is you talk about it being a chess move. He was going to get offers from other SEC schools. There were going to be other schools that wanted him and probably would have given him a shot to play right away. So what are you doing? You're hurting a future opponent by taking a guy that you believe, if we pay a little bit more to, sit on the bench and develop him for a full year, he's going to come on in and light up the stat sheet in 2025 when we actually need to use him, or 2026 when we actually need to use him. And he's not going to be playing for Kentucky against us, or he's not going to be playing for Auburn, or he's not going to be playing at Vanderbilt, or he's not going to be playing at a Mizzou. And I like that. It's a smart move by Shane Beamer and by the coaching staff to guarantee that they got themselves a quality backup, but more importantly, a future starter that could be playing on Saturdays in the SEC is not going to a school to where it becomes a shootout and ends up potentially beating them and knocking them out of the college football playoff. Let's grade the move, Dave, as you and I always like to do. Elite, all league, winnable plus, winnable minus. It's hard, again, when you have a quarterback with not that many stats and you're going off of a lot of his high school tape, it's hard to get a grade, but there is something about having a backup quarterback. There is something about the position that sometimes enhances the grade.
Again, anybody that's listening, I'll quickly go through. So this is a grading scale I had when I was in college football. This was kind of dumbed down from a Nick Saban, Dan Lanning perspective. Kirby Smart, Dan Lanning perspective. Nick Saban, Bill Belichick have their critical factors, which there's not enough time in recruiting to break down the way they wanted to grade it. It's kind of past. So this is kind of dumbed down from a Kirby Smart perspective. Georgia, Oregon, this is their grading system, if we're being honest. But elite speaks for itself. I always say it's Coach Mark Rick used to always say in his evaluation. My wife could tell you this guy's good. I mean, you could even categorize all league in that category too. Like elite Travis Hunter, Trey Smith from Tennessee, just throwing you some guys out there. Justin Fields would have been in that as well in college, out of high school. Like, these are the no-brainers. All league, very similar. Walter Nolan and stuff like that. Like, speaks to you're not going to have a lot of these guys on anybody's team. Winnable plus is where you're going to make your money if you're a championship level team. If you're taking 10 guys on your current roster, you're hitting anywhere from 5 to 7 out of those 10, 50 to 70% on them, and you're categorizing those guys as winnable plus, your team or your staff is doing a phenomenal job evaluating and hitting on kids. You will be in the college football playoff competing for titles if you're doing that. Winnable minus, don't look at the minus and think it's bad. It's a guy that you can win with, but you're not going to win because of him. Let me repeat that. You're going to win with him. You're not going to win because of him. You got to surround him with other guys. Think offensive line, defensive line, wide receiver groups that are kind of by committee at times, running backs a little bit. And it's interesting. We're doing a quarterback here, so you really don't give a lot of winnable minus grades going into a quarterback. Most people believe when they're taking a quarterback, he's going to be the winnable plus all league elite range up at that point. But I'm going to debunk that. I'm going to go right now, as wild as it sounds, I'm going to go winnable minus here because just the unknowns. And I don't really know Air Noland personally either. I've never had any kind of conversation with him. So I don't really know the cerebral kind of, is he a slow blinker? Is he a quick thinker, anticipatory? Right? All that stuff still's got to be figured out. They're going to have to surround him with stuff. Again, South Carolina, even before Shane Beamer's had offensive line issues. So they're going to have to keep the offensive line healthy, keep hitting on those guys like they have been the last 2 years, keep filling in the guys on the outside around him. Maybe Nick Harbor can continue to develop, stuff like that. They're going to surround him with other guys in the backfield. Right now, I can't go any higher than winnable minus. I like the take. I like the strategy of getting your backup quarterback potentially, or your 2026 quarterback in next year already with Mike Shula. Let Mike Shula get his hands on him. Mike Shula's a quarterback developer, folks. I mean, I was born and raised an Alabama fan. I saw Mike Shula firsthand develop Brody Kroll. John Parker Wilson had one of his best years under Mike Shula. And he's had 2 years with Nick Saban. Cam Newton. Cam Newton's a freak, but he did help Cam Newton totally develop. I'm going to go winnable minus, though. Bears got to be surrounded, though, but with some better players with an opportunity, I think, ceiling-wise, to potentially get in that all-league range.
So I feel like that you would be a head coach and I'd be a GM because I would just oversell every single player that we brought in, and you would have to bring me back down to reality because I'm going to go winnable plus. Again, I value having a backup quarterback. I've watched too many teams in the NFL and in college football see their seasons be flushed down the toilet with elite wide receivers, with a stellar defense, with a constant run game, with great execution on special teams because they don't care about the secondary quarterback spot. They don't care about developing QB2 because so much of an emphasis is on QB1. And Lenore Sellers is a great quarterback. Lenore Sellers, for my money, is the favorite to win the Heisman going into next year. And he's starting off the year for me as QB1 in the SEC. But with that being said, I have to trust that everything is possible in this sport. An injury can occur. You unfortunately have a missed assignment and you tear your ACL. You watch as a player decides to enter the transfer portal or they get hurt in the middle of a practice and then their season's over with. And you still have 13 more games to play. You still have a shot of going to the national championship. You have a stellar defense. You have an excellent offensive line now. You have a great wide receiver core. And you're going to flush it all down the toilet because if you didn't care enough about the secondary quarterback position, adding an Air Noland to work with Mike Shula, a guy who you brought up can develop multitude of quarterbacks, whether it be a pocket passer, whether it be a dual threat option, and be able to build a relationship out in Columbia, South Carolina, to be able to snub places like Georgia and Tennessee and Alabama that all could use a quarterback at this point, even if it's for a backup position, and choosing to go to a place that is building off of vibes and sheer grit to become a player in 2025. I like the fit. I like the fact that you're going out and you're addressing a position that is severely underutilized in the sport. And more importantly, you're putting yourself in a prime position to where, hey, we lost Lenore Sellers for 2 games. No problem. We got Air Noland. He's going to air it on out. We're going to be right back at square one, and everything is going to be fine. 2-0 during that stretch. That's the way you should feel when it comes to adding in a backup quarterback. That the guy can come in and not win you games, but do enough not to lose you games. I think Air Noland can be that guy. That's why he's winnable plus.
Yeah, I could see that. I thought the ceiling was all league.
Let us know in the comment section down below. What do you think of Air Noland going to Columbia, South Carolina for 2025? Winnable plus, winnable minus. Make sure that you like, review, hit subscribe on the channel. That way you don't miss out on a single bit of the content. Follow us on the social channels, TikTok, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter at SEC Unfiltered. Follow Dave at Mock 10 Sports, me at Miss Cole Thompson, and check out all of our great work found at SECUnfiltered.com. For Dave Shumate, I'm Cole Thompson. War Chickens, you got yourself a backup quarterback. Peace.